Welcome to Anime Recaps. In this video, we will explain Hataraku Mao-sama, or The Devil is a Part-Timer. This anime tells the story of a demon lord Satan, who came to the human world to escape the previous battle. Instead of preparing for the next war, he turned to like the human world and often helped them when they were in trouble. Will he decide to return to his world and continue the previous war, or will he stay in the human world forever? Let's find out in Hataraku Mao-sama, or The Devil is a Part-Timer. Hataraku Mao-sama begins by showing an island in the ocean of Ignoria, surrounded by 4 continents. The island is called Ensues and is inhabited by the demon lord Satan, widely known for his cruelty. Satan has 4 bodyguards named Alciel, Lucifer, Malakota, and Adramelech. They were assigned to attack the 4 continents. But unexpectedly, a human knight named Amelia came to attack Satan after defeating his 4 bodyguards. Satan had no other choice but to hand over Ensues to the humans and Amelia while promising that he would return to take over the island one day. Then Satan with Alciel entered the portal and disappeared. The next scene shows Satan and Alciel in the middle of Tokyo. Both of them were a little confused until finally, 2 police officers found and arrested them because the police thought they were foreign tourists who were lost. While interrogated at the police station, Satan uses hypnotic powers to extract information from the officer. He finally found out that while in the human world, they could not use magic power. Satan and Alciel began to devise a plan so that they could blend in with the human world. The next day, they came to the government office to take care of their personal data. Then they go to the bank and set up an account before looking for a place to live. It was evening when they finally rested in a rented room belonging to an old woman named Mikishiba. While he was resting, Satan suddenly fainted. Alciel panicked and took him to the hospital. Apparently, Satan fainted because he had not eaten all day. This made Satan and Alciel realize they needed money to live in the human world. When they returned to the rented room, Satan and Alciel began to write job applications. For that, they used pseudonyms, namely Sadao Mao and Shiro Ashiya. Luckily, it wasn't long before Mao was accepted to work part-time at a fast food restaurant. The job is enough to give them money. They can even buy some furniture and a bicycle. One day, Mao went to work with an umbrella because it was raining that day. He met a beautiful red-haired girl at the crossroads who did not carry an umbrella. Mao's heart seemed to feel sorry for her, so he gave her the umbrella. On the other hand, while Mao was working, Ashiya focused on finding a way for them to return to Ensues. He spent a lot of time in the library, reading books to find a way to get them back. Mao did very well in a fast food restaurant because he wanted to get a promotion. His co-worker, Chiho Sasaki, is a petite girl who is quite frivolous. While focusing on working to pursue sales targets, the frying machine broke down. Mao was worried that he should use the remnants of magic to repair the tool, or he could save the remaining power for another opportunity. Before Mao could decide, the restaurant manager, Mayumi Kisaki, called him. Kisaki apparently intended to make Mao a permanent employee, making him very happy. He returned home by bicycle happily at the thought of getting a raise. But in the middle of the road, Mao again ran into the red-haired girl he had met earlier. Mao's surprise grew when she said she knew he was the demon lord Satan. The red-haired girl was Amelia, and she immediately took out a knife to kill Mao. Although initially surprised, he realized that the knife she took out was an ordinary knife without any magic power. So he confirmed that Amelia's fate was the same as his, trapped in the human world and unable to use magical power. The scene then changes to show Amelia's life. While in the human world, Amelia uses the name Emi Yusa and works as a call center agent. Emi's life was not much different from Mao and Ashiya's. She lived day after day as a human before finally returning to the apartment where she lived alone. But unexpectedly, that night, Emi suddenly came to Mao and Ashiya's residence. Ashiya panicked at Emi's arrival, but Mao took it easy and allowed her to enter. Once inside the house, she told how Emi and Archbishop Obameya followed Mao and Ashiya into the portal. Yet somehow, only she arrived in the modern world. After hearing that story, Mao confidently stated his intention to regain control of Ensues. Several days later, Emi observed Mao and Ashiya's daily activities, even though she realized their daily life was like 2 human beings. Not wanting her efforts to go to waste, Emi came to the fast food restaurant where Mao worked and asked him to meet. It was just that Mao didn't want to leave his job and asked her to wait until he got home from work. Meanwhile, while Mao was resting in the staff room, Sasaki asked about the earthquake that continued to strike. Long story short, Mao met Emi, who was actually waiting for him. While they were talking, suddenly someone shot them with magic bullets. Mao pulled Emi to run and hid in the station. After confirming that things were safe, he told her to go home because he would be working tomorrow morning. But when he arrived in front of the house, Mao saw Emi following him. Embarrassedly, Emi asked for permission to stay the night because she had lost her wallet while they had been running earlier, and her house was too far away for her to walk. Mao finally allowed Emi to stay even though Ashia looked scared of her. When he was about to go to sleep, Mao suddenly received a short message from Sasaki regarding the ongoing earthquake. He finally sensed another meaning to Sasaki's words and messages. The next day, Emi left the Mao's house before Mao and Ashia woke up. Arriving home, Emi saw the shooting last night broadcast on the television channel. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Mao and Ashia were having breakfast with food made by Emi. Mao again received a message from Sasaki, who asked him to meet in the afternoon. The scene again shifts to Emi, who was at work when she suddenly received a mysterious call. The man who called her was apparently the perpetrator of last night's shooting and declared his intention to kill Emilia and Demon Lord Satan. Emi concluded that the mysterious caller was a demon who knew about Entaisla. Meanwhile, Mao was preparing for his meeting with Sasaki later. Mao and Ashia even deliberately shopped for new clothes to make Mao look cooler. After meeting Sasaki in front of the train station, Sasaki complimented Mao's appearance and asked to hold his hand as they walked towards the cafe. Mao agreed to the request because he thought that Sasaki would do that so she wouldn't get lost at the station. Unbeknownst to the two of them, Ashia and Emi, who accidentally met at the station, followed and watched their movements. At the cafe, Sasaki shared that she kept hearing strange things while at the restaurant. One night, she gets a strange call where the caller uses a foreign language. From Sasaki's story, Mao concluded that the demons used their radar to find him and Emi's whereabouts. That is the reason why Sasaki often experiences earthquakes. While they were talking, Emi suddenly approached their table and scolded Sasaki for not trusting Mao. The two of them were arguing, which made Mao confused to intervene. But not long after, there was a big earthquake until the cafe building collapsed. Sasaki didn't have time to save herself, and when she woke up among the rubble, Emi used magic power to put Emi back to sleep. Then Emi called for Mao to show himself. It seems that Mao's appearance is no longer human. Instead, he returns to the figure of Demon Lord Satan. This signaled that the Mao's magic power had returned. Emi intended to kill Mao with the remaining magic power she had. But surprisingly, he instead said he would help bring them out of the ruins. It made Emi wonder why Demon Lord Satan would want to save humans. The scene flashes to Emi's past when Emi was a child and spent time with her father, Lord Justina. At that time, they were talking, and her father informed Emi that the Demon Lord had already ruled over 2 continents and was about to invade their continents. Not long after, troops from the church arrived who would take Emi. She initially refuses, but her father insists that only she can defeat the Demon Lord later on because Emi is a descendant of her mother, who is an angel. But apparently, it was Emi's last meeting with her father because Lucifer burned down the entire continent a few days later. Back in the present, those rescued from the rubble are being interrogated by the police. One of the policemen recognized Sasaki as the daughter of another officer. Then, Mao realized that Sasaki could hear strange noises because he used magic on Sasaki's father, which then affected her. Seeing the situation after the earthquake, Mao then told Emi that their enemy was very close. He said he wasn't worried because his strength had returned. After a few days, Emi started to feel strange about Mao's attention, especially because he was the Demon Lord Satan who had previously killed his father. Finally, Emi came to Mao's house to confront Mao. But when they were alone in the house, Sasaki and Ashia came. Sasaki saw Mao and Emi alone at home and immediately misunderstood and ran away. Right now, Miki came to hand over the announcement for room renovation. In addition, she suddenly said that Mao should be responsible for the magic vibrations felt by Sasaki. They all realized that Miki was not just an old woman who owned the rented house. The scene shifts to another parallel world where Emeralda Eduva and Albretio aimed across dimensions to catch up with Emi. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Sasaki is walking alone sadly. She thought there was a special relationship between Emi and Mao. Suddenly in front of Sasaki, a purple-haired man appeared at that moment. The man seemed to be able to feel Sasaki's sadness and immediately took out large black wings. Chaos ensued with the man's appearance, which caused Emi, Mao, and Ashia to run over. At that moment, the man flew into the air, and Mao recognized him as Lucifer. Emi was even more surprised because she thought she had killed him in the battle in Entaisla with the holy sword. Then from beside Lucifer appeared Olba Maya, Emi's subordinate who had apparently been helping Lucifer with the lure of bringing him back to heaven. After that, without any more words, Lucifer attacked Mao. Lucifer's attack targeted Ashia, who fell down immediately. Mao and Emi had no other choice but to escape from Lucifer, who continued to damage and attack to kill Mao. While running away, Emi wondered why Lucifer had power in the human world. Mao explained that Lucifer got his strength from the people's negative emotions around him, just like Mao, who could regain strength because the humans around him felt fear and despair. Lucifer apparently caught Sasaki and used her negative emotions to gain power. He attacked Emi and Mao until one of Lucifer's shots hit Mao. Even though Mao kept trying to run, Olba suddenly blocked and shot his leg with a gun. Emi used the remnants of her magic power to teleport, moving herself and Mao to the front of the station where there were many people with various negative emotions. Lucifer apparently followed them, and he threw Sasaki away because he no longer needed emotions from her. When Lucifer was ready to attack, Mao used the emotions of the people around him to transform into Demon Lord Satan. He holds the building that will be torn down by Lucifer and then turns the area into a magic area so that humans fall asleep. Emi took advantage of this by transforming into Amelia's form, at which point she immediately fought Olba and defeated him. Likewise, Ashia returned with his form as Ulciel. They fought until Mao finally managed to intimidate Lucifer, frightened. Then, he punished Lucifer for making him late for work. After Lucifer and Olba were defeated, Albertio and Emeralda suddenly came through the portal and immediately hugged Emi. Emi confirmed that she didn't want to go back and wanted to settle down as a human. Meanwhile, Mao uses magic power to repair the city and hypnotize people to forget the incident. When he returned to work at a fast food restaurant with Sasaki, Mao said that he would stay on Earth as a human. The scene changed to show when Mao and Ashia were eating together. Not far from them was Lucifer, who was being searched for by the police, so he hid in Mao's house. He goes by another name Hanzo Urushihara, and his figure becomes addicted to playing on the internet. Meanwhile, a mysterious young girl reports on Olba's betrayal at church. She mentioned that Olba had made a false report regarding Amelia's death. The higher-ups of the church panicked because they had previously spread the news about the death of the hero, Amelia. They asked the mysterious girl what should be done. In Tokyo, Urushihara discovers a site containing a supposedly scary place. When Mao and Ashia returned home, Urushihara explained that a scary place could mean magic. They finally decided to come to the place, which turned out to be Sasaki's school. They wait until nightfall to enter the school and head to the forbidden class's scary place. Urushihara, who didn't come to school that night, suddenly called Mao and said that most likely the holy gate where they can gather magic power is in the forbidden class. On the way, they were surprised by the presence of Emi, who apparently sneaked into the school. Finally, together with Emi, they headed back to the forbidden class. Meanwhile, in the building opposite the school, a mysterious girl figure previously in the church seems to be stalking them. When they arrived at the forbidden class, they saw a game console and a lot of snack packs. Emi concluded that someone had stayed in the classroom not too long ago. It was then that Urushihara called Mao again and told him to take the game console. Apparently, this was all just a trick of Urushihara to get the game console back. They left the school feeling upset. Arriving back at the apartment, Mao saw that someone else had just moved into the next room. When he was standing at the bottom of the stairs looking at the room, suddenly a girl appeared in traditional Japanese clothes. Interestingly, she accidentally slipped on the stairs and fell into Mao's arms before falling unconscious. The next day when Mao and Ashia were having breakfast, the neighboring girl in the next room suddenly came to introduce herself. The girl's name is Suzuno Kamazuki, and she always wears the traditional Japanese dress, kimono. Suzuno came to thank and apologize for bothering Mao yesterday. She gave udon as an introductory greeting. On the other hand, Emi was on the phone with Emeralda. Emeralda has just sent a package of holy power that has been packaged into an energy drink. She then explained the dose that Emi could take. The moving scene showed Emi watching the Mao's house. She accidentally saw Suzuno with Urushihara in the room. Emi became curious, so she observed them behind the door. Apparently, Suzuno was helping Urushihara cook because Ashia was sick at the time. When Suzuno was about to get extra groceries from her room, Emi hurriedly left behind the door until she accidentally fell down the stairs and fell on Mao. Mao then invited Emi into the house and introduced his new neighbor, Suzuno. For some reason, Emi kept looking at Suzuno and finally asked to speak alone with her. Outside the room, Emi warned Suzuno not to get too close to Mao because he was no ordinary man. Hearing that, Suzuno smiled and told her not to worry because she had a lot of experience. On the next day, Suzuno gave Mao a lunch to bring to work. Meanwhile, Esmeralda called Emi again to tell her about Church, who was looking for Olba's whereabouts. She warned that the Church might send people to look for Emi. At the fast food restaurant, Mao would eat lunch from Suzuno, a luxurious meal with heart-shaped rice. Sasaki, who saw this, felt jealous and annoyed with Mao. On the other hand, Emi was buying dinner at a convenience store when suddenly a masked man appeared. She recognized the purple gleam in the man's eyes and immediately assumed he was from Enteisla. Sure enough, not long after that, the man took out a large scythe weapon and started attacking her. Emi panicked, and she asked the shop cashier to call the police while she took out her holy sword to counterattack. Their fight was exciting, especially because the shop cashier helped with pelting the man with rotten fruit. Eventually, the man fled when the police arrived. The next day, Emi and Sasaki came to Mao's house after Sasaki told her about the bento given by Suzuno. When they knocked on the door of Mao's room, they were surprised to see Suzuno open the door. Apparently, that day Suzuno returned to help them cook because Ashiya was still sick. When eating together, Sasaki praised Suzuno's cooking, to which Suzuno replied that she was diligent in cooking to save money while looking for work. Hearing that, Mao offered Suzuno to work at a fast food restaurant because they were looking for new employees. This made Sasaki even more heartbroken. Long story short, Suzuno goes with Emi to buy new clothes, because all the clothes that Suzuno owns are traditional kimonos. Meanwhile, Mao will take Sasaki home. While walking home, he asked if she would mind knowing Mao's identity as Demon Lord Satan. Sasaki finally used the opportunity to confess her feelings to him. But just then, Suzuno suddenly came over, which made Sasaki feel embarrassed to run home. Suzuno asked Mao how it felt to be liked by many people. Suzuno continued on her way to meet Emi at the train station. At the station, Suzuno felt awkward because she had never been on a train before. Emi was surprised and asked how Suzuno would come to the city if she didn't take the train. Suzuno straightforwardly answered that she came using the portal at the Holy Gate. That answer took Emi by surprise, which surprised Suzuno. They finally realized that the two were on the same side and had misunderstood. Suzuno then introduced herself again as Crestia Bell, the Grand Inquisitor of the Church in Enteisla. Emi suspects Suzuno was the man who attacked her last night, but Suzuno denies it. While they were at the cafe, Suzuno expressed her intention to help Emi fight the Mao. But Emi rejected the proposal because she didn't trust the church anymore after the previous Lucifer and Olba incident. The scene changes again when the restaurant manager, Kisaki, asks Mao to help out at another branch in Fushima Park. Later in Fushima Park, there will be a haunted house festival and a reptile park. When Mao told Ashiya and Urushihara about it, they had intended to help. Urushihara even advised Mao to gather strength from the negative emotions of the visitors in the haunted house. Knowing that Mao was going to work at another branch, Sasaki called Emi to take her to Fushima Park. Emi agreed, and after that, Suzuno called Emi to inform Mao's plan to gather strength in Fushima Park. Emi initially objected and convinced her that Mao had come to Fushima Park only for work. But Suzuno didn't believe it and forced her to come with Emi and Sasaki to Fushima Park. In Fushima Park, Mao worked diligently. He was then asked to deliver food orders to a circus group. When he arrived, the circus group seemed to panic because the key to their crocodile cage was lost by a monkey, so that the crocodiles that were supposed to be exhibiting reptiles escaped and entered the pond. The visitors were running scared. When he realized that, Mao gathered strength from the negative emotions of the visitors and cast his magic ability to catch all the crocodiles. Suzuno, who saw this, wondered why a demon Lord Satan would use his abilities to help humans. At Mao's house, Olba came to Urushihara and offered to rejoin. Meanwhile, Sariel was still torturing Emi when Mao finally came. Sariel attacked Mao, who he couldn't match because of his low magic power. Meanwhile, Sariel's strength became even greater because it was a full moon that night. On the other hand, Olba drank a drink filled with holy power and affected the city with magic. The influence of Olba's power creates fear in the townspeople's hearts, which gives Mao negative emotions that can gather even more power. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Ashiya wakes up after gaining strength from the patient's negative emotions. The negative emotions presented by Olba gave Mao strength, which then turned him back into the form of Demon Lord Satan. He freed Emi and assigned Suzuno, who had turned to the Mao's side to protect Sasaki. Urushihara gained strength due to those negative emotions and instantly killed Olba. Meanwhile, the battle was fierce between Mao and Sariel. At one point, Mao managed to immobilize Sariel and instantly eliminate him. When the battle was over, Ashiya just rushed over to help Mao. The next day at a fast food restaurant, Sasaki told Mao about her dream. She apparently dreamed that Mao would return to Entei Isla, which he denied. Mao instead said he couldn't return because his magic power had been used up in last night's battle and to repair the damage in the city. Hataraku Mao-sama closed with the scene where Mao was running through the rain at night. At that time, he apparently forgot to bring an umbrella. While standing at a crossroads, Emi suddenly came to give the umbrella she was carrying to him. Mao thanked her, to which Emi replied with a sinister smile. The moral that can be learned from this anime is not to judge someone based on appearances, impressions, and even other people's words. The reason is that the person's words are just slander.